Hey everyone, this is for Monday's course for CAS 204, which is our research methods class. You're going to be doing your ethnography paper in the next couple of weeks, so we're transitioning out of the book on homelessness into actually you doing practical ethnographic skills. So this is what your ethnographic paper is going to look like. All right, first and foremost, these documents are on Canvas, so this is just copied and pasted off the documents you'll find on Canvas. This is just me explaining them in case you have any questions. So here we go. All right, you're gonna write an ethnographic paper. All right, and it needs to be at least 4 to 5 pages long. All right, so you're gonna go out in the world and you are going to make observations about a specific group of individuals or an area in which groups of individuals congregate. I know that's going to be a little bit difficult with the pandemic, but we can get creative, all right, to make sure that we're still, doing all the proper social distancing, whatever is still going on in your area, all right. So you need to find some sort of group to go and observe, all right. So you need to hang out with this group at least 2 to 3 times and make observations. So you need to find that group today, right? Figure out what you're going to observe today because you're going to have to meet in that space 2 to 3 times in order to write the paper. So if it's a group that only meets once a week, you need to figure it out today because if it only meets once a week, you're going to have fewer times in order to observe it. All right. This could be a group that you're already a part of. So you could look at a sports team, for instance, if you're on the Penn State baseball team. All right, go and study the habits of the baseball team. If you're part of a church group, like a Bible study group, some people have done. All right, again, a Bible study is probably a group that only meets once a week, so you need to make that decision now because you need to make sure that you have 2 or 3 sort of formal observations with that group. It could be a student organization that you're part of. All right. Or it could be a group that you're not a part of. So you could go and be a spectator at a baseball game. So for instance, Penn State Brandywine is currently playing softball games and baseball games. So look at their schedule and then sort of go to the ballpark and observe the crowd that's at the ballpark. You could become a part of a book club. You could go to a religious service that you're not affiliated with. So maybe there's a church around the corner from you that you've always thought, this is kind of interesting. I don't really know what's going on there. Go to that church for the next couple of Sundays and observe. Okay. Real quick, this is important. Do not formally talk to anybody or conduct any interviews, all right? Because you do not have IRB approval, all right? We've talked about all this in class. Interviewing formally requires IRB approval. Interviewing without IRB approval is unethical. Do not do it. So don't approach people and start, asking them specific questions about themselves, about the group. If people are having casual conversations with you, that's perfectly acceptable. All right, just don't sit there and ask, probing questions and take notes and all that. Don't do that. All right, with regard to the interview process, you do want to take notes as far as what you observe. As long as these are sort of publicly open places, you're allowed to observe. All right. But again, don't formally interview anyone. Don't sit down and ask, some sort of structured interview questions. 10 participants. Don't do that. All right. But yeah, if people are having informal conversations with you, that's totally fine to sort of mark that and recognize it. All right. Each paper needs to be at least 4 to 5 pages long. You do not need references for this paper, all right, because it's just your observations. So it should go a little bit quicker because you don't need to cite anything. All right. Papers that don't meet minimum length will be considered incomplete. You're not going to receive credit. We've gone over this before. Make it sure at least 4 to 5 pages. All right, your paper should include 5 sections. All right. First, you have some sort of introduction, which is a thesis and a preview. Should be about half a page, all right? So, for example, I went to this specific church to do my observations. First, I'm going to discuss the setting of the church. Second, I'll discuss the people. Third, I'll discuss my reaction, my interactions that I had while I was there. And finally, I'll give you a conclusion, all right? So these are the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth parts of the paper, all right? So the first more formal section, so the second section of your paper, right, is the setting. So just in detail describe the physical environment around you, right? So where and when did this research happen, right? It happened on, Sunday morning at this time on these specific dates. These are the specific dates I went and I interacted with this group or I observed this group. I went to a Penn State baseball game on this Saturday and then the following Wednesday, right? I went to this public dog park on these couple of dates. I went to the public library. I went to a shopping center. I went to media's dining under the stars might be an interesting one to go and observe. I think that's on Wednesday nights. So walk around, media for a while and sort of observe how people are interacting with this sort of dining under the stars thing. That's hopefully going on now. That's a little bit warmer out, right? So there's ways in which you just describe the physical setting, all right? Describe the room or the setting, again, if it's outside, what's going on outside. The colors of the walls, the lighting, the time frame of the meeting. Was it an hour long? Was it 3 hours long, right? The seating arrangements. If you're at a church, everybody's, facing forward as opposed to sitting in a circle, right? This, helps to draw a picture for me as the reader so I can sort of physically put myself in that setting, all right? Be as detailed as possible to make sure that I, as the reader, sort of understand the physical environment. Again, how many people are there? Is it 5 people or is it 500 people, all right? The time frame, how are people dressed, all that kind of stuff. All right. Be detailed and specific. Have some fun with the descriptions. Okay. I messed up a little bit. Don't describe how the people are dressed yet for the setting, right? All right. But that's the physical setting. Now you get into the people part. So you're going to describe how people are dressed, right? How many people are there, right? What are the ages and the demographics, right? If and how you think they are, different things are important, you can go ahead and mention them, right? If things like, gender, race, nationality seem important, go ahead and mention it. If it doesn't seem important, don't force the conversation, all right? So for instance, if you're at a church, are there only men leading the church service? You might find that something that is interesting, okay? So talk about the people who are there, right? And again, the big one is like how many people are there, right? Is it mostly singles? Is it family setting? Like, what's going on? Who are the people interacting with? Are they interacting with each other? Is it really a social place? Is there no talking at all? If there is talking, what are they talking about? And again, this is where you get into don't ask formal questions, but if you overhear conversations or the people are interacting with you and just having casual conversations, these are perfectly fine to mark them and discuss. All right. But again, no formal interviews. All right. The attire is the clothing. Now we get to clothing. Is it more formal or informal? So if you're going to a church, is it a very formal church where everybody's buttoned up for Sunday morning? Is it an informal church? Yeah. What are people wearing? How are they acting? If you go to a sporting event, obviously you're gonna sports jerseys, right? Wearing the colors of your team. Like these are kind of important things to notice. All right. Okay. So those are the first 3 sections. Now in the last 2 sections you're gonna have your reaction and your interaction. So did you feel comfortable or uncomfortable in this setting, right? Did you feel like you were an outsider? Did it feel as if people were treating you as an outsider? Or did it feel a pretty welcoming environment? Obviously, if it's like someplace you've been before, you're probably going to feel comfortable. If you're the new person and you are sort of infiltrating the new group, you might feel uncomfortable. You might be getting stares, especially if it's a small group and people notice that you're different, that you're the new person. Yeah, describe how you are feeling, right? Would you go back? Did you feel welcome? Did it feel normal? Did people approach you? All right, again, don't approach people, but if people approach you, then just have normal conversations with them. If you're going to a church for the first time, I use church a lot because that's a main paper that people tend to write over the years. Yeah, do people come up to you and say, "Hey, welcome, I haven't seen you here before," right? Or do people not interact with you at all? Did you interact with people informally? What happened? Again, don't give specific quotes and don't name people. All right, just sort of generally summarize. All right. So yeah, don't give direct quotes. Don't name people. Don't say, hey, Bob approached me and said the following, right? But just sort of generally summarize what happened in those conversations. What were people asking you about? How were you interacting? All right. All right. And then finally, the conclusion should be at least 1 page. All right. At least 1 page. All right. This is your time to have an opinion. What's your overall impression of the group, right? You like it, you don't like it. What can the group teach us about, whatever it is that they're covering, about fandom in baseball games, church practices? What can this group teach us about, interactions at public parks and dog parks? What can this group teach us about some sort of student organization, student government, if you're part of student government? All right. Would you go back, right? Would you recommend this group to other people? Good or bad, right? You could say like there's some really cool things that are happening in this group, but there's some, you know, bad things that are also happening. So it could be, you know, that you like some things, you dislike other things. It's perfectly fine to discuss. And then recommendations for future research. So, you know, now that I studied, you know, Penn State, you know, baseball games, now I want to go, you know, I kind of want to look at, you know, the soccer games or the basketball games. Now that I went to this specific church, maybe I want to go visit a synagogue, right? Or a mosque. I want to, you know, go look at other, you know, religious places where people are congregating. All right. So those are the 5 sections of your paper. Um, Finally, have a peer edit your paper. All right. Make sure you visit the writing studio. I should not be the first person to read your paper. Turn in your paper at the start of class the day it's due. All those details are on the syllabus. And then this is what the eval form looks like. Paper's worth 100 points. Here's your minimum requirements. As usual, do not turn in papers that do not meet minimum requirements, at least 4 to 5 pages. All right. Your introduction's 5 points. The setting, right? 25 points for the setting, 25 points for the people. Your reaction interactions, 20 points. Your conclusion, 5 points each, so 15 total here. Right. And then, you know, grammar, spelling, all that kind of stuff. All right. So just make sure you're going through the eval form. Again, the major thing is pick a group within the next 48 hours that you want to observe. All right. I get that, you know, there's a pandemic, COVID, some people have vaccines, some people don't. You know, there are options out there. You might have to get creative. So it could be going to your local dog park. It could be going to an outside, you know, baseball or a softball game. You know, Penn State's doing baseball and softball games right now. So I know that that's an option to be outside and be, you know, away from each other. And there's, you know, probably some groups that you're involved with. So again, if it's a Bible study or if you are going to church on Sunday morning, these are places that you're kind of already going. All right. I guess if you are a part of a group that regularly meets on Zoom, this will be acceptable for, you know, right now. I would definitely steer clear of it because you're not going to be able to get as many details, and you're going to be fighting really hard to get 4 to 5 pages. So if you're part of student government and right now you're only meeting on Zoom, if you have 0 other options, maybe talk to me about doing that. But the problem with doing stuff on Zoom or having this paper being written about some sort of Zoom observation is you're not going to be able to talk about, you know, the surroundings as much, right? You're not going to be able to have you're not going to be able to write about details with regard to, you know, the people that you're interacting with. So try to stay away from Zoom stuff. If you have 0 other options you can think of, get a hold of me and we can talk about, you know, some ideas. But try to get outside. All right, try to go to a store. Try to go to a farmer's markets are open now. You know, baseball games, softball games. If you're already part of a church or a Bible study, there are plenty of things that are sort of available and accessible to us outside of our homes during the pandemic, that you can go and observe with plenty of precaution and mask wearing and social distancing and whatever you need to do to make sure that you feel okay. All right. If you do have any problems with this, please get a hold of me and we'll make sure that everything's accommodating. All right, but that's the paper right now, and it's due in a couple weeks, so check out your syllabus, and I will see you all next time.